Hey guys, this is Stacey Ryan, and I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
What's up, guys? Rob here, Front Row Live Entertainment. I'm finally hanging out with Stacey Ryan, and I'm so excited because the EP just dropped. The debut EP just dropped, and what a masterpiece that you have been working on. Before we dive in on it, you just got off tour, so I want to talk about like this tour, U.S. tour that you just wrapped up. What was different this time around on tour for you, and what do you feel like you learned on tour this time around?
I think, can I hold it?
Absolutely.
Cool. Sorry, I don't want to like take it out of your hands, but I just thought your arm may get tired. I think I was honestly kind of nervous going into this tour because last summer was the first summer I have ever traveled as much as I did. Yeah. And it definitely took a toll on me, like physically and just mentally, like, like hopping around from hotel room to hotel room and like living out of a suitcase for just months on end. Like I had never ever done that before. So when I did that for the first time, I just felt like this strange feeling of just being unsettled, and it made me feel very weird. And I was scared that I would feel that again on this tour because 2 months of being gone, just again doing the same, living out of a suitcase, hopping around from place to place. So I was like kind of not knowing what to expect going into this, but I couldn't have been like more pleased with how it happened because the tour was just like one of the best experiences of my life so far. I think because we were on a bus for 2 months, so having that space to come back to, kind of like that was our hub, that was like our home for the 2 months, and that really helped me with that kind of like feeling unsettled feeling. Right. But also just the people, like Jake that I opened for, and just his whole crew were amazing people. Like I've made friends for life, 100%, and they like obviously like it was their first big tour like of that size and mine as well. So we're all learning and going through together, but we all helped each other as much as we could. And like, I feel so fulfilled. I'm tired, but fulfilled after that tour for sure.
It's cool because I feel like Jake's music is pretty much related to yours. Both of you are so intense when it comes to just sonically giving us a little bit of every instrumentation. So being able to kind of share a stage like that with an artist that understands the type of music that you create, like what was that like, and how do you feel that it helped you become a better performer at the same time?
You know what, you can hold, you got me. Honestly, I think that one of the highlights, at least for me in the tour, was watching his show every night because it was so amazing because he's such like a vulnerable, personal performer, and that like I was so inspired every night. Like it made me want to just go and write a song and like pour my emotions out into my lyrics because that's exactly what he does, and just like seeing him like be totally himself and live his truth on stage was like so beautiful to see. And it just made me like, oh, I need to go practice my moves, or like how should I move during this song, like it just kind of made me think about that also, while just like watching him was just like amazing, like, and the fact that I got to do that every night or every time we played was like something that I'll never forget.
Yeah. Now, talk to me about your performances, and because it was around the time that the EP was about to drop. So, did you perform a lot of this EP on this tour, or did you kind of mix it up with like older material, maybe tested out stuff like differently? What were fans like getting during these performances?
We would do the whole EP for every show. Sometimes we would change a couple songs around if we noticed like, oh, maybe like it's not at the right spot in the set, or like, but we would perform the whole thing. It's only 6 songs. And then we would also do Don't Text Me When You're Drunk, which is not on the EP, but it's
I've never heard of that song.
Yeah, me neither. And then we would do a cover, and we kind of like, we started out like doing, I don't even remember what song we were doing at the beginning, but we kind of, sometimes we would go like sit in a park, and my guitarist and my friend Jacob, who played with me, he would bring his guitar, and we would just kind of like mess around, and then we would like, oh, that's a cool song, and then we would perform it to see how it did, if people liked it. And I forget where we were at. Maybe it was like Dallas, or I may have been someplace in Texas, and we started playing Landslide as like a kind of like R&B like jazzier version, and then it stuck, and we played it for the rest of the tour because people really 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 liked it, and they're like, oh, you gotta release it, you gotta put it out, like your version. Yeah. So it was definitely very EP focused because like it was also coming out on the tour. So what better place to like promote it and like play the songs from it, and then a little bit of other stuff.
Now, as we dive into this EP, like going into that creative process for it, it was a lot of firsts for you, like as far as like getting together in a room with other songwriters. So what was that experience like for you that first time coming in and starting to try and work on music? Because I feel like that's nerve wracking, especially with the type of music where you get vulnerable. Like you can't just open up to anyone. So what was that experience like, and how did you get comfortable with all of these songwriters and artists that were in the room with you?
I mean, a big part of how I was comfortable was I was working with the same producers, and they've done every song that I've put out almost. And so we were the, what's the word? Like not the remaining factor, like the thing that's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Like the thread, whatever.
and I'm blanking out on that word right
Right,
now.
but you know what I'm saying. So like they were always there.
Common denominator. Let's say that.
Yeah, I think that's maybe what I was. I was just like trying to find a word that rhymed or something. But they were always there, and I felt like very safe with them, like musically and just like as people as well. So when we had writers come in, they were just kind of adding to the vibe. So like obviously when you're writing with people, you find who you click with and you find who you don't. There was not like one person who I was like, I'm never gonna write with them again, because like I would definitely write with everyone again for sure. But I was, I had kind of no idea what to expect going into writing, or from writing songs by myself to now having like 5 people in the room. So it's definitely like an adjustment, but I really, really enjoy it because like my mind is only so big, and what I think of can only be so many things. So like when you mix that with someone else who can also is thinking different things than you make this like you make this product, or not, I wouldn't call a song a product, but you make this thing, this piece of art from all your brains combined. And I think that's like really cool, because there could be stuff that I would never even think of that I'd be like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I'm so glad that you added that and I added my thing. And like, yeah, I really enjoy co-writing a lot.
There was a name that I saw on the liners, Rabel, and I was so excited to see that name on there just because I was a fan of the music early on, and he like such an incredible songwriter. So what was that experience like, getting to write with Rabel, and what do you feel like you learned during that process?
I mean, it's just so interesting to see how songwriters like brains work, because and I've learned a lot, like from just being in sessions with writers like Rabel, and then we also wrote that day with Skylar Stonestreet, who's like amazing. And it was just so cool to see how like in my brain I would write a lyric and I'd be like, oh, that's fine, and then but they would go like, hey, maybe this, or how could we make it different? How could we change that? And then it just like, it makes me learn and makes me kind of double think sometimes, or rethink. But I remember that day being really cool. And we wrote Deep End that day, which is like a fun summer bop. So like, I remember the vibes being amazing. Rabel brought his dog, Super, little tiny white dog. And it's hard because all of these sessions were like a really long time ago, like over a year ago. Yeah. And I wish I would have like taken like brain screenshots of every single thing that happened, because like looking back, it's hard to remember everything. I just remember it being an awesome day. I would love to write with Rabel again, 100%. Again, like everyone who wrote on this project, and even people like whose songs didn't make it on, like the vibes were always really, really great,
Absolutely. And this EP, all 6 tracks are incredible. Fall in Love alone is probably the one that I have on repeat, just because it's so mentally stimulating. Like there's so many different, sonically, there's so many different sounds. But one of the things that I love the most is that you're singing in head voice pretty much the entire time. Like that's not easy. What was that process like for you recording that song? And was this a change that happened in the recording process, or did you have it already in mind during the writing process?
That's actually a really interesting question, because going back and listening to the demo vocals of that day was like very soft. It was like, if we never try, how will we know? Instead of like being way more like just strong like it is on the original track. And I would contribute that to like having a vocal producer like James, who plays keyboard, produces. He was there that day in the studio with me, and he was like, hey, like, just giving me cues, like stuff that I could like improve on or stylize a little bit differently. But I am not a great belter, so I don't sing in like chest voice. At least going up higher, I really like rely on my head voice and my mix. So that's why like that's very prominent in a lot of my songs because that's where I honestly feel like more comfortable than if I were to like sing super loudly because that's just like not who I am as a singer. And I could definitely develop that, and I really want to start like seriously taking vocal lessons. It's just so hard when you're like never home and you're on the go and it's like, hey, let's do a Zoom session, and then, oh, when you're in town, and it's just like been hard to find that balance. But I'm definitely like looking to do that because I feel like there's like an untapped part of my vocal range that I could definitely develop and make stronger. I just am so comfortable like sitting up there in that spot that I know that I can do, that I just kind of fall into like this, oh, I'll just do what I know, you know. But I also think Fall in Love Alone is like, I remember when we made it that day, like the day we wrote it, I remember being like, this is something really special.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Going back to you feeling comfortable on the head voice, do you feel like it has a lot of it has to do because you were a trumpet player back in the day? Like, because like my brother's a trumpet player, like he's been playing trumpet in high school now in college, and I'm always hearing him hit those high notes. Like that's his like go-to thing. So I'm assuming like, is that something that you did early on as well? And that's probably why that head voice feels comfortable to you? Does that make any sense at all?
That's so, you're asking good questions. Like no one's ever asked me that before. I don't know if it has something to do with it. I definitely played high notes as a trumpet player, not like crazy high because I only played for 5 years, and to develop like scream notes and like really high ones, it takes a lot of like practice and endurance and stuff. But I mean, it might have. I definitely came into like my vocal identity a lot more like after I left school and kind of like have got thrown into my career, and then just like seeing what other people were doing and like just kind of living my actual like dream job. Like that's definitely helped me like discover my actual sound, because you know, like all through my life I've been like navigating and being like, what do I want to sound like what kind of music do I want to do? And it takes a long time to actually be like, okay, this is like, this is me, this is what I sound like. Because you know, like there's also, you're growing up, your voice is growing, you know, like I'll watch videos of me like singing with the jazz band in 7th grade, and like it's so wild to look back and look at me standing on stage not moving a muscle, singing like I Will Survive, just like oh no no go, like no runs, no nothing. Like I didn't even start doing that until like after high school, like you know, like college. And then I also listening to a lot of new music that I never listened to also helped me like develop that side. And I think just kind of doing what feels comfortable for me, you know, and I guess me like chilling in that very high but mixed voice up there was like what I really like to do.
And jumping on to the vocal run, like that was another beautiful thing with Fall in Love Alone. That like it, I wasn't expecting it when it happened, and when it did, I was like, oh my goodness, like this just gets better and better as like the song is closer to the end, right? Like, where do you feel like you were challenged on that song, if at all?
Um, I think probably most of the challenge was like the writing process, just like kind of being vulnerable, because I did write that about something that had happened to me. I wasn't living it at the moment. I was kind of like taking from previous experiences, but it's like you said before, like it's hard to be vulnerable with people that you just met, you know, and also, but what I think what makes Fall in Love Alone special was that I was writing with one of my friends, Victor, who we had never met like in person before, but we had been friends like on TikTok and the internet for like a couple months or a year, maybe even before we started writing. So I felt like I knew him. And then we were also writing with Laura Anderson, who works with Victor. They're signed to the same publishing company. And she just instantly became like a very, like she had a very safe vibe and just like amazing vibe in general, very talented, very amazing songwriter. So I felt like I was like, oh, I'm ready to talk about this thing, like, you know, like me potentially having feelings for someone who doesn't feel the same way, which, you know, like hurts. And I remember writing this song with them, and then we just like tracked the vocals, and we all the background singers, like that's all us the day that we wrote the song. Like there's a video of us tracking each voice, all of us like in a circle, the mic's in the middle, and we're all just singing, and they made it on to like the final track. So that's also like a cool Easter egg. But yeah, I remember just like when we were doing the final vocals for that song, just like kind of you gotta like let loose, and like it's hard to let yourself like kind of go, because it's very easy to be like, oh, I don't want to try that because I don't think I'm gonna do it. I don't think I can do it, and it's like so easy to just like not try because of that. But then you have to, because something crazy could happen. Like the riff at the end of that goes into that new section, that was like from the day we recorded the first demo, like the day we wrote it, we were just in the room, and as soon as that part played, I just did that riff, and that first take is that one that made it into I tried to remake it, like redo it, and it just didn't hit the same.
That's nuts.
So sometimes you just gotta kind of go with your instinct and just try stuff, because who knows what can happen.
Yeah. What song on this EP do you feel like challenged you the most, and which song do you feel like there was a moment where you were like the most excited about recording a certain line or a certain part or writing a certain lyric?
That's kind of tough, because I think it would be between Over Tonight I think that's my I know that's my favorite. I think it's just so like unique sounding and different, and it is like more of a like, I don't want to say like suave, like lyrically, it's a little bit more of like an older topic, like how like friends with benefits want to become more, in that kind of situation. But we wrote that song about like, we came into the room, and as soon as we heard like the music, like that we like the chords, we were like, oh, this is a specific vibe that we want to fit into. And we just kind of all put our brains together and wrote like a story song, is what I call them. Like, not one of us were maybe going through that right in that moment, but we were like, this sounds exactly like two people who like each other but can't tell each other. So they just like subliminally send like iMessages to each other, like stuff like that. Like it was so cool to like write that story together. And then I also just think like the arrangement of that song is like I don't want to say unparalleled, but it's just like so cool. But then also on the other hand, The Idea is the only song on the album or the EP that I wrote by myself. Like I wrote it before I even came to LA. Yeah. So producing that was like kind of a little bit different, because I had a little bit more free range, I guess, like, and it was more like on me than a group of people. Yeah. So that was kind of a different experience from all the other songs on the EP, which had like 3 producers, 1 or 2 co-writers. So it was like a different experience, and getting to like play on that record and like discover things was just like, I don't know if I would say challenging. It was a challenge in its own, I guess, because it was just different from what I had been doing on all the other songs. But it was also cool because I was like, oh, this is like this is the song that I wrote all by myself, and it's like matching up to these ones that I've written with like professional producers and songwriters that have been in the business for 10 years. So it was a cool feeling for sure.
You were doubting yourself, like now's the time to put that in the trash and like realize who you really are.
Yeah, let's just go for it.
You did mention that your producers, you've worked with them for a long time, probably from the beginning. So how do you guys get together and create new music without like having that level of comfortability? Like how do you step it up, like and try something new?
So I think what really, really helps is like having breaks between like when we write songs. Like that first time I came to LA to write songs was last February. So it's like a year ago, and we did like 3 weeks of writing sessions, and we had never written together before. So it was like boom, 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 all the ideas coming out like right away. And then we didn't write together again until like, it might have been the fall, like sessions, or maybe it was the summer. There wasn't a long period of writing sessions like we had done that first time. So like there was space, there was time, we all lived, we all like grew. So like coming back, we're all full of new experiences and new sounds and like new music that's inspiring us. So it definitely, I've never felt like, oh, I have no ideas and this is getting old, which is great because that's a possibility and something that can happen. But I think just the fact that we're spacing out these sessions and bringing in new songwriters, like that changes the vibe completely, like you can have like the base of your recipe is the same, but then adding like a new ingredient changes the whole flavor.
That's true.
And I think just kind of like keeping that, and also just like the fact that I feel like we have so much music to make still, and like we're not going to be running out of ideas anytime soon.
I hope not.
I don't foresee that happening, because like we're like, not only are we like, time is passing, but we're also like growing and getting new experiences, and that changes your songwriting.
And with having so much so much music to write, you wrote so many songs for this EP and then stuck with these 6. So why did you feel like a debut EP was the better choice and not the album, since you had enough for an album?
Right. I think it's just like introducing myself to like the world with a shorter project, I think is just like, hey, let's get this out, because like I've been wanting to put out no, I guess wouldn't call it full length, but just like a body of work, yeah, for a really long time. And I was just so eager and excited that we could have easily like done a 10-song album, but like we really thought that those 6 were truly like very different and like stood out a little bit more than the rest. Like those other songs that we wrote are still amazing and I love them, and hopefully like they may end up coming out like, later on album 3, who knows, but like we just kind of picked those songs and we didn't even know it at the time, but those songs had like this thread between them that I really only sat down and thought about it like a months after we had actually picked the songs, because we just picked the songs because we're like, these are special songs, they sound amazing, like we connect with them, and that's why we picked them. But then once I took the time to think about it, they all are talking about like some form of relationship or love between like people or yourself, but there's not one like tried and true love song on the album, and that's why it's called I Don't Know What Love Is. Yeah. Because you're like navigating love and emotions and relationships through these songs, but none of them is ever like, that's it, I'm in love, I found it, So like, and I realizing that after we picked the songs, after we had like, sent the songs in, was just kind of awesome that our brains like subliminally found that like message in those songs when we didn't know it was there in the first place.
Yeah. So now do you feel like you're closer to knowing what love is?
Hell no. Hell no. I got way more albums to talk about not knowing what love is, and I will. But, we're constantly growing and meeting new people, and like maybe one day I'll know what love is.
Yeah. We'll get there.
I'm not worried. I'm so young. We got time.
Got tons of music to write first.
Oh, you're so right. Ugh.
So, you just got back from tour. This EP's out now. You're here for like 10 seconds, and then now you're heading back on tour, Joshua Bassett, for this tour in the UK. How different is this going to be for you? And is this your first time like doing a proper tour in the UK?
Yeah, this is definitely, I did a couple shows in the UK last year. I did a Paris headline show, but this is my first time playing because we're going to Germany. I've never been to the Netherlands before, so playing a show there is going to be awesome. Playing a couple shows, like not just in London, but like also going to Glasgow and Manchester is going to be really cool. And I think this tour will be, tours are never going to be the same because it's different people, different audience, different demographic, like with Jake, we were all living on a bus together. So like we got very close because not that we didn't have a choice, but we kind of didn't have a choice, but good thing we all got along and now are great friends. And also like his audience are a very like vast mix of like young kids, older people, like everyone. You could see anyone at one of his shows, which was really cool because you never know who was going to be there and who would connect with my music. And also just, in the US, it's the US, it's comfortable, is what we know. Yeah. Everyone speaks English, except for when we went to Montreal, which is where I'm from, and I speak French. So it wasn't like I was just going home. I was like, oh, this is great. But now going to like actually do a tour in Europe, something I've never done. And I think, Europe in the springtime, I'm not mad. Yeah. The weather's going to be nice. Hopefully it won't rain too much. And I also think his audience is just, a younger demographic. I would say more girls. And I'm just excited. And I know like a bunch of people are already DMing me and saying, hey, like, what are your songs for the tour? Like, I want to learn the lyrics. Cool. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I can swear. Hell yeah. Yeah, I don't know. You can pick one of those. But I'm just super excited to see like how different it is because I know it'll be very different. Also, the fact that like me and Joshua are not going to be traveling together like me and Jake did. So it's just going to be like, I'm really excited to see how it's different because I know it's going to be awesome. Yeah. It's just going to be awesome in a different way.
Yeah. Well, hopefully when you get back, we'll do another interview and talk about whatever album or record or album 3. I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, we're already working on the album. Like, we put out the EP, but we've been working on the album since before. Wow. Yeah, we're doing that right now. We're hoping for, like, it'll probably only be released next year.
Yeah. Let this EP like live a little, like, because it's like I said earlier, it's a masterpiece. Like, let it live.
Thank you. I will.
So I'm excited that we finally got to talk and hang out. Thank you so much for taking the time. Congratulations with, first of all, the signing with Island and also the debut EP. And good luck on tour. I'm excited to reunite with you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we should definitely do like a post-tour interview, and then after the summer's over, post-summer, because that one's going to be
I dig that.
Crazy.
I dig that.
That's going to be wild. Then we'll be like, hey, I just played like 5 festivals this summer in a bunch of countries I have never been to before. Yeah, let's talk about that.
I can't wait. Let's do it.
I'm so down.
Awesome. Well, you guys check out Stacey Ryan heading out on tour with Joshua Bassett real soon, and get the debut EP. It's out now. It's titled
I Don't Know What Love Is.
She still doesn't know what love is. I don't know what love is, but, check it out.
Does anyone truly know?
Does anyone truly know? I don't know.
But if you never know, or if you never try,
then you never know.
We know. Yes. Some songwriter wrote those lyrics, and I
wonder who it was.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. That was a great line, though. I got to figure it out. All right. Thanks for watching here on Front Row Live.